Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reliving the Extreme. And this week, we are taking a break from the action of ECW and instead going to talk about all of wrestling because we're going to talk about this year's class of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame. A little nerdy thing that I do every year that I have a bunch of friends vote on. And we've been doing it for 4 years now. We crown a class every single year of who is in our Hall of Fame. There are criteria, which I'll run down as we go through discussing. Of course, Aaron's here. Chad's here.
Hey.
Yep. I just kind of rolled with it there. But one of the main rules to keep in mind as I run through the ballot from this year, which had 30 people on it. Usually it's 25, but we wound up having more nominations or more suggestions for nominations this year than normal. So I went with a 30-person ballot. But do keep in mind that someone can only be on the ballot for 5 years. Then they fall off and they have to go back through the nominating process. But anyway, here we go. I'll run down the ballot, and then we will go into who got in this year. We'll discuss them, and we'll also discuss Aaron and Chad's thoughts on those stars and who Aaron and Chad and I voted for that didn't get in this year. All right, here we go. So far, this year's ballot, on the ballot for 4 years, Stu Hart, Sting, and Ricky Dozon. 3 years on the ballot, Mick Foley, Arn Anderson, The Rock, Bob Backlund. 2 years on the ballot, Vader, Ted DiBiase, JYD, Midnight Express, Sherry Martel, Rick Rude, Rick Steamboat, Sergeant Slaughter, The Sheik, and John Cena. And
that's a good list right there. Fuck.
And then the guys that were put on, or the guys and gals that were put onto the ballot this year, their first year on the ballot. So we got Rey Mysterio Jr., Antonio Inoki, Nick Bockwinkel, Gorilla Monsoon, Chris Jericho, Trish Stratus, Kane, Jimmy Hart, Gorgeous George, Bruiser Brody, the Von Erichs, that's Dave, Kevin and Kerry, Eddie
Chad
Guerrero,
Austin,
and Buddy Rose. Buddy Rose, not Chad Austin, but Buddy Rose.
Why not? Yeah, everybody else is on it.
Well, I mean, they're not in yet, though.
God damn.
They're not in yet, though. Just on it.
I think I heard Mike Boyette.
And I have who Aaron and Chad both voted for on the ballot this year as well. So we'll go through that. But first, let's break it down. We'll go through the people that got on in the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame this year. I'm not going to run down who all is already in. Just because that's repetitive. We've already done it year after year. If you want to hear some of the conversations that we've had in the past, go check out the We Can't Wrestle podcast, because that's where we've had most of these conversations about the Hall of Fame in the years past. But anyway, this year it was his first year on the ballot, first year officially on the ballot. He got in, had actually the most votes of all the people that got in this year. Chad, what are your thoughts about Nick Bockwinkel, who you did vote for? Chad did vote for Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah, and I honestly, I knew about Nick Bockwinkel from decades of watching wrestling, but it wasn't up until recently that I was just like kind of bored, and I'm going through like spindles of DVDs, and I found like some AWA, and it was an older AWA that kind of bled into Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, dude, that dude was like, he was like Mr. Perfect before Mr. Perfect. Like when it came to the bumps,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he would take the creative, silly bump, like when it was the perfect time for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he definitely learned that from Ray Stevens, and granted, his body of work is, in my opinion, is marred by his lack of competition in the AWA. But still, I think it stands the test of time that Vern Gagne had the guts and the wit to put the belt on him for as long as he did.
Yeah, well, and that's what when we were discussing him individually on our other show last week, I brought up to the guys that I talked to then, one of the criteria is being of significance to the business or a territory. And you talk about being of significance to a territory without Vern Gagne, Mad Dog Vachon, and Nick Bockwinkel. What really is the AWA? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty much it.
And I don't know, maybe there's some that's available that I've never seen, but I have not seen but maybe a couple of short clips of Bockwinkel and Stevens as a tag team, if I ever even have. But from people that you talk to that actually witnessed it, they supposedly are one of the greatest tag teams to ever team up. And I to be honest with you, I just take people's word for it because I haven't really seen much of them as a team. I don't even know how much exists.
They did like on YouTube, it's a lot of like quick like 6-second clips.
Yeah.
Like it's like finishes, like the knee drop from the top rope, like finish kind of thing. And it's all in that fucking like San Francisco red rope, like it's bright red, like you know what I mean? It's like it's shot. Yeah, I've seen it. And I even have like old AWA tapes or where they would show like old match, like, you know, a match or two. Or I found one the other day. It was a whole entire hour of matches from the St. Paul Civic Center.
Okay.
And what's his name? The commentator guy was hosting backstage, and you know, it was like they just cut away from him to be by the AWA banner, but they would go to the ring for all the matches, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Even had a Buck Zumhoff match.
But it's also sometimes like when people say, well, I never really saw any of their matches or whatever, it's like it's almost like with wrestling, it's like you don't have to see it to know it was good. You know what I mean? Like I haven't never seen Harley Race and Larry Hennig team up, but they were a tag team, and goddamn, I'd hate to. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, those were some ass kicking matches if those guys were fucking tag team. You know what I mean? Like, imagine being the guys having to look across the fucking.
I was gonna say
those guys.
They're just wrestling their match and it's perfect, and they're smoking a cigarette while they're doing it.
On the ring apron.
Yeah, just palm alls, make the
tag rope out, extended in one hand, and he's got his other hand in the ring with a cigarette in it. He's like, made a tag.
They got one of those little gold foil ashtrays on the turnbuckle pad or on the turnbuckle post.
Yeah, the referee comes over to like tell him to get out of the ring, gives him the 1, 2, 3, 4, and he has the ashtray. when the guy has to ash it out, like as he's getting out. Oh, god damn you, ref! Yeah, totally.
But Aaron, you also voted for Bockwinkel. I did not, and it's not because I didn't think he needed to be in. It was just because he just got on the ballot, so I figured, well, we got 5 years to get him in, but he got in anyway, so good.
So you had a plan.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk about my fucking plan later.
And what Bobby say? He talked about, like, he brought up, like, what would AWA be without, like, what'd he call it? Oh, he said
Wally Carbo?
No, Bob. He said, then I left. He was like, I was working for the AWA, which stood for all the world's assholes.
I guess, yeah. I didn't work there.
So, unless you guys have anything else on Bockwinkel, congratulations to Nick Bockwinkel for getting into our little Hall of Fame. Then the next guy that got in this year, also another one who's first year on the ballot, and right away he's into the Hall of Fame this year, Bruiser Brody.
Fuck. Aaron, you better go first because I've already had my say on this in the text messages.
Well, I did not vote for Bruiser Brody this year, I do believe.
You did not?
Yeah, because it was his first year, and kind of like what Nate said, I figured I'd get a couple guys that I've been trying to get on there, but there's no doubt that he belongs. And I mean, it's like I think I said it on the last show we had, like, when you talk about wrestlers getting copied, like, you know, there's like guys that copied the Road Warriors look, and guys that copied Hogan's look, and guys that copied Billy Graham's look. How many guys copied Bruiser Brody? You know what I mean? Like, when, like, we want to look like a big, tough, long-haired wrestler, you know?
Yeah. Shit,
He's one of the guys that if you ask somebody that doesn't know anything about wrestling to draw a wrestler, they're going to draw somebody who looks like Bruiser Brody.
A good chance, at least. I just can't believe. I mean, I just can't believe that I haven't picked him earlier, because I figure like somebody like Brody, like I picked Brody for everything. He had one vote last election around here for councilman, and that was me. I vote for Brody for everything. Just So I'm glad Brody finally got his deal, dude. Come on, seriously. When you talk about influence, like the fact that he could run territories and do production, and you know what I mean? Like he could do everything in the business, and he was like one of the guys that came around, like this is all like pre-cable, like sort of speak. And he knew how to do all that shit, man. And his body of work, fuck, just in Japan alone, he goes in. You know what I mean? Then you got to take in consideration his St. Louis stuff with Flair and all that shit. 60 Minutes, come on, man. Flair is nuts, dude.
And
60 Minutes,
enough balls to be able to just, if somebody told him to do something that he didn't want to do, he'd just say "fuck you" and bounce.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like a lot of times people would say that's a bad thing, and it's like not necessarily. You know what I mean? It's like it's like at that time, especially, it's like I might not be here 4 months from now.
In the time that he was an active wrestler, that was the best. Like if he existed today, in today's type of pro wrestling environment, the "fuck you, I'm out of here" thing probably wouldn't have been as financially beneficial. You know what I mean? Like you can't just, nowadays it's like, well, I could tell WWE to go fuck themselves, but those are really nice checks, and I don't know if I'm going to go somewhere else and get paid like that. You know,
especially when you're approaching pretty much the tail end of your best years.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could always say "fuck you, WWE," because I always got Japan in my back pocket. But fuck, I'm 40, whatever, 44 years old. I want to go over Japan still?
That's a question I was going to ask you, Chad, because Aaron and I discussed it before on a show you weren't with us on. Now, there was talk. I've always read that in like right around the time before he passed, there was talk of the WWF at that time talking about trying to get Brody to come in.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and they were talking about possibly bringing him in as a tag team with John Nord, I think, which I don't know about that for sure. But my question for you is, you were just talking about, okay, I'm getting up in years, et cetera, et cetera. I see where the business is going. Aaron disagreed with me, and I just wanted to see what you thought. Do you think, say it's 1988, Brody doesn't pass away, WWF offers him to come in, they offer him either a tag team or maybe a run with Hogan or something to that. Do you think that at that point in his life, Brody would have been less confrontational because of the money he could have made? You know what I mean? As an older, he wasn't old, but he wasn't getting any younger. You think he could have changed his attitude to work for Vince and work within the system to make that money?
Especially at that part of his career. Like that would be like just the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. That would be like just I worked my whole life to do this, and now I get to do it. Now I get to do it for fun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like Brody in '88 is like CM Punk yesterday. CM Punk is finally like, all right, it's time to fucking settle down and quit being a shit stirrer and work for the biggest company in the world and make a bunch of fucking money for a few years and then probably say sayonara. Or go work in the performance center or something.
And I think that might, like, I don't want to say like he wouldn't have done it, but I don't know if it would have lasted, because like, yeah, okay, you're gonna work with Hogan. He's not gonna beat Hogan. You know what I mean? Like that's not gonna be a thing. But
yeah, but he's still gonna get at least probably.
Well, I know, but
like 3 months, because you're gonna have to establish the build first. So he's gonna get a 3 month run just out of a one run with Hogan.
And I get that, but after that, is my thing. It's like I don't see him like wanting to
Tito
do
Santana.
business after. Like, well, I mean, not even that. Like, okay, now you've lost to Hogan. Okay, you main evented WrestleMania or SummerSlam. You lost to Hogan. Cool. Now we're gonna bring you back down the card. Cool. It's
You're
like,
working
all
with
right.
Jake Roberts.
No, or no, it's like, all right, Brody. Now we want you to go out there and we want you to put over Brutus Beefcake. You know what I mean? He's
With
gonna
his
say,
finish.
"Fuck you." You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. Like, I don't see him in that company jiving well at all.
I would pretty much say, like, I know they had a meeting. I do know that. But they just weren't willing to work around his Japan schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was first and foremost for Brody. It was like, dude, look, I'm going like 32 weeks out of the year. You know what I mean? You're going to get me like fucking once every 3 months for like a week or some shit, you know? Yeah, he probably looked at it like, all right, I have this offer on the table. You know, what do I want to do? Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing and still having that Japanese fucking kind of thing going on? Or like we were talking about, just taking it easy for a little while. But unfortunately, man, I could just see Brody at fucking 40, at like 50, working for MCW. You know, I'm thinking like, did I remember you? Or he was still around now, like doing the indies. He's like 58 years old or 60 years old. I remember you in like 1983. Yeah, Brody definitely is a fucking I can't believe that we're just putting him in.
Well, the next guy that got in this year after 4 years on the ballot finally got in. Let me see. Aaron, of course.
Say it.
Aaron did vote for him. Chad did vote for him, and I did vote for him because shit, I've been voting for him since we started this thing. Stu Hart. You talk about being of significance to the business. Fucking Stu Hart. I mean, his what he did is still going today. You know, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, it's still going today. Jericho, Natalia,
the talent that came out of his balls and his basement is just amazing. Like, that's a Hall of Fame fucking roster right there.
Just his sperm alone should be in the Hall of Fame.
Like a little cup.
Yeah, you go to the fucking WWE headquarters and it's just a little tiny window with a cup in it. And it's got a bunch of phony Hart names. Flo Hart.
I think he started wrestling in like 1943. So,
I'm not even sure it was the 19th.
Yeah.
you might want to check your Wikipedia again.
Oh, look at that. We got Stu Hart and Abraham Lincoln. Wow. But yeah, he started wrestling in the 40s. So you think about that, his wrestling career, which other than like late, like maybe like 70s, early 80s Stampedes, I've never seen a Stu Hart match from 1945. Who has? Other than people that lived then. I just haven't. It's not there to watch it. But
we assume it happened.
Yes. Yeah. But you think about he had his wrestling career, and then he starts a promotion that is Canada's premier promotion. I mean, I don't know. Was it? Would you say Stampede or would you say Montreal? Either way,
Montreal was only Montreal.
Right.
Stampede went everywhere. They covered both ends of Canada.
They even went down into came down into the States. They went into like Montana and shit. So
yeah, I mean Canada, it's like driving cross country, like in America, California to fucking Delaware or whatever.
They're driving over a frozen lake,
and they're doing this weekly. Like, come on, dude, you're gonna be a bad motherfucker having to deal with that shit in a broken down ring truck. 20 degrees below fucking freezing.
You got the wrestling career, then you got the promotion, then you got, like Aaron said, he's got I mean, his family produced how many amazing pro wrestlers.
Even the ones that didn't make it big were still good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the dungeon, how many people did he train that we have watched over the years? And how many people have those people influenced that we're watching today? So the guy, I mean, just as a significance to the business Stu, and Stu's also one of those guys that what I bet looking back on it, he was kind of maybe like, I don't know, bitter or whatever, but he never gave in that he was. But anyway, he was also smart.
I don't think he was bitter. I don't think it was as much bitter. It's just he was just hardened.
What I was referring to was, do you think he was bitter about selling, like selling out to Vince pretty much?
No, I think he would. I think his kids are more bitter than he was about it, because Stu got his payday for the month. Well, Brett claims he never did, but Stu was set. I think Vince paid him, but
why wouldn't he have?
But I don't think he paid. I don't think he paid him what he thought he was going to get. But I still think he paid him. But I think his kids are more bitter about it than anything. And I'm not even going to say they're wrong for it, because if Vince did kind of do him a little dirty, it's like it's still their dad. You know what I mean? So they're going to be a little pissed off about it. But Stu made sure his kids were taken care. Like his core group of guys are taken care of. And it's like you said, Nate. He started wrestling in 1945. Vince bought him in what, 83, 84?
Yeah, 84.
He was like, probably, I'm fucking tired. Like, I've cranked out.
I need a fucking nap.
I've cranked out 12 fucking kids. I've trained like 800 people.
That trained 1,200 people.
He's like, I'm fucking done. I'm tired. I can barely walk.
And you know what's funny though? Like it was because I was I don't know, a few weeks ago I was watching the Wrestling with Shadows, and I always thought kind of a low key funny person was Helen Hart. Like when they interview Helen Hart, she's like, so he told me when we got together that we wouldn't be in this wrestling business for more than 5 years. And here we are. Everything's the wrestling business. All our kids are wrestlers. All our daughters are married to wrestlers. I just love how she's just this old lady, just like, I didn't want anything to do with wrestling. And it's my whole fucking life.
He's a very nice boy, Archie.
Yeah, she sounds like Edith Bunker. Yeah.
And it's like, that's like I was saying, like Stu, when he was a kid, him and his like siblings they were on the fucking prairies of Canada, living in a fucking tent, and he wound up in a mansion in Calgary. You know what I mean? So I bet in my mind he was just probably like, what else is there for me to do? Fuck it, take it, Vince, have it.
No, you know what I mean? I mean, where was his vision of what Stampede was going to be 25 years from then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had no recollection of cable television or how to get involved in that. Only thing he had basically to offer anybody in the wrestling business was his library.
Right.
And his territory that nobody's seen to watch. Nobody's running them bullshit ass towns in the middle of fucking Canada.
Yeah, going to fucking Indian land and shit. Like they went to like.
Yeah, it's like
reservations and shit. It's
I was gonna say, where are we going today? I think we're doing a show up in Moose Knuckle.
Yeah, for the Pakwak tribe.
That sounds about fucking right, dude. I heard some of them places, and I'm like, I think they just stop and just set up a ring, like the Iron Sheik going to Walmart. He just walks into Walmart and claims that he's booked. Can he get a fucking table to sell pictures at? I did it with him. I helped him. I've totally fucking seen it. Oh, I booked Bubba. No, you're fucking not. You just came to Walmart. You're going to tell anybody you're a famous wrestler. WWE Champion.
Big Hulk Hogan. Jabroni.
Yeah, Stu is like one of them fucking, yeah. I mean, dude, like, look at like even when he talked about his feats of strength and shit, even when he was like in his 60s or whatever, he was still like stretching people. Granted that they weren't working as hard with him anymore as they did when they were younger, but yeah, he still knew how to stretch people.
Looks like Nate was talking about on that Wrestling with Shadows. That one guy's talking all that shit,
and he's like, the one screaming.
Yeah, like at first he's like, "Is this where you stretched all the guys? Is this where you hurt all the guys?" And he's like talking shit. And I think Harry Smith. I think he's on. Is it him, Nate? Is
Yeah.
it Davey's kid?
Yeah.
Like if that kid even looks at the camera, like this guy's about to get fucked up. And then Stu just he leaves the black kid alone because he was nice and pleasant and shook his hand and everything. But then that little fucking one dude that keeps talking shit, Stu fucks him up.
Stu wasn't having it.
And he's like, notice what happens when I move your arm just slightly.
Yeah, and it literally is slightly. Like literally, like dude, it's like he just he does it like almost in slow motion. And you hear the guy just go like from like just laying there going, ah! Yeah, dude. Like he put your arm back as far as you were letting him put your arm back. where it didn't hurt you, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, okay, now I'm just going to move it back a little bit. Well, you already put it back as far as you wanted it to go back. And then he just said, no, a little bit over this way. You know? Of course you're going to fucking scream fucking bloody murder.
Guy's fucking eyes go bloodshot. His capillaries are sticking out. Yeah.
And you can't do nothing. Like, you know, that kills me when I watch wrestling, like kind of nowadays. And like guys put like a brutal maneuver on somebody, like, you know, like, I don't know, I'm guessing like a Taz mission or whatever, you know, and then like they like leave the guy. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you can't do that. And like, you know, remember how they used to wake him up from the sleeper?
Yeah.
When they, you know, when Dusty Rhodes would pretend like I ain't doing it when he was doing the sleeper angle and shit, and the referee's like, dude, you got to, and the guy's just laying there. I hate that because it makes me fucking cringe just knowing that I could be in a move where I can't do fucking nothing about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's exactly what Stu Hart is. I'll be like, fuck you, old man. Next thing I know, I'm fucking all hurting. Just like laying there, my legs all in the air backwards and shit.
You're waking up in your car and it's running.
Yeah. Just on the hood. I look like a Buick emblem.
Yeah, like I said,
all the way out and shit.
After all the years that he's been on the ballot, Stu Hart finally in the Hall of Fame this year. The next guy, another guy that first year on the ballot and got right. Actually, wait, second year on the ballot. I'm sorry, and did get in this year. And of the three of us, I was the only one that voted for him this year. It was Junkyard Dog.
Well. Who wants to go on this one?
I would say the reason that I voted for him this year was I look at it's the of significance. It's the Mid-South territory that what was it 2.5-3 year run that he had there. I think you could put that up against any babyface run in the history of the business,
especially when we're talking about territories.
Yeah.
For a territory as big geographically, but as small, basically in the same format geographically, because he drove fucking, 1,200, whatever, 2,000 miles a week, whatever, for 5 towns. You know what I mean? But it was still a small territory. And for him, like, I was just telling my roommate the other day, I was talking about Dog. And I was talking about, like, how big, like, the, what is it in Louisiana, the Superdome?
Mm-hmm.
Like how big the Superdome is, and nobody could fill it. They could have fucking Ringling Brothers there at the same time as Muhammad Ali and Prince are playing, and all three of them at the same time, and you ain't selling that place out. And like the Dog, what held the record? Well, what was it? Was it? I want to say it was more than 38,000.
Yeah,
like some tells me it was closer to 40,000.
I don't know why 42 sticks in my head. That could
be
wrong,
like 44 sticks in my head.
Okay.
But I'm thinking like that's barely half the place. You know what I mean? But that's the record. You know what I mean? And Dog had it. What? That was the Michael Hayes thing, right?
Yeah.
Katrina didn't even put that many people in the Superdome.
What's that?
So Katrina didn't even put that many people.
I was going to say, yeah, Katrina couldn't even draw in the Superdome.
Sorry.
The whole fucking city's underwater, and they still couldn't get 77,000 in there. Jesus. But yeah, Junkyard Dog to do that, man. Because I mean, who would have thought? Like, if I was Bill Watts, I would have put together fucking me versus Nate on the undercard. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't have
Like,
mattered. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. Who gives a shit? Yeah. Put old crotchety old Mr. Wrestling 2 out there in his tidy whities.
Nah,
It
dude,
doesn't matter.
you're paying Wrestling 2 too much money. No, dude, you get 6 guys. You put them in like 3 matches. You know, they do a couple of singles, a tag, and then a 6-man, and then you come back with Dog, and that's all you need.
Yeah,
sell it out.
And
no
he
shit. 40 some thousand people in the Superdome is like you said, Nate or Aaron, that Katrina couldn't even sell that place out. That's pretty good.
And it's like Aaron and I discussed before. For everything you can say positive about Bill Watts, what he didn't realize was JYD wasn't over because he was black. JYD was over because he was JYD. You're not going to be able to repackage George Wells as Master G and him replace JYD or Action Jackson or whoever the fuck else he tried to make the next Junkyard Dog. It wasn't because he was black, man. It was because he was fucking great.
He was over.
And that and especially even back then, the African American culture could I don't want to say tell when somebody was trying to placate to them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like, you know, it's like they didn't, like you said, they didn't like JYD because he was black. They liked him because he was fucking cool. And it's like, then when everybody else is trying to go out there and do it, it's almost like they're like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? It's like they know you're trying to play down to them, or they feel like you're trying to play down to them.
It shows Bill Watts' pure fucking ignorance.
mm-hmm.
Just to automatically think that he could just unplug one black guy and then plug another black guy in that spot.
Yeah,
like that's ignorant. It's fucking ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? How can you think that's possible?
Not that he even would have had a chance of rebounding the promotion, but probably the guy that he tried with that was the closest to JYD's charisma was Iceman Parsons.
Yeah,
but he wasn't ever gonna be what JYD was.
Fuck no. I mean, he was a distant second. He may have been second, but he was a distant second. You know what I mean? He can go to his fucking grave saying that he was the number 2 black guy in New Orleans, but you were way fucking behind Dog, bro.
Yeah, nice story. Nice story.
That's like breaking Bruno's record. Shut up, Roman.
Yeah, and then like just beyond New Orleans. You know, I know when Dog got to WWF, you know, I mean, everybody knows he got fat and blah blah blah, and it's you know, it is what it is.
It's the route everybody takes.
Meltzer liked to call him the junk food dog and all that crap, but he still was a fucking huge ball of charisma. You can argue that for a little bit there in 84, 85, he was right behind Hogan as the biggest baby face in the company. And
he would tag with Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
If Hogan was going to get into a tag match with like Bundy or Patera or Stud and whatever, it would be Junkyard Dog a lot of the times. Or Piper and Orndorff.
Right.
I mean, he was like I said, he was a number 2 guy. I mean, but in WWE, like, he's headlining your B shows. Hogan can do the fucking gardens and the fucking UIC pavilions and let fucking Junkyard Dog do the fucking, you know, the 5,000 to 7,000 seat places.
Right.
He'll sell that shit out. I took it to buy crack one time. Him and Jake Roberts.
That's a team.
Yeah, they wanted to go down to Baltimore Arena and wanted to see what it looked like now after they remodeled it, and I didn't know what they really meant. I took them downtown, and they saw a guy with a black trench coat. Next thing I know, they're all the guy was like, "Junkyard Dog." And I was like, oh, geez, whiz. I got suckered into that one. But he was always cool to us. Dog was. He still, he was one of them guys that were pretty much broke at the end. And like most of the time, how guys are like Sheiky Baby, they ain't taking too many pictures for nothing. Dog would. Dog couldn't even get his stuff together and leave the locker room without the boys all jumping up in there. He never charged fucking any of the boys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was always cool. So the next guys them old guys like that were like, dude, at least people remember me now.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a payday at least.
The next guy that got into the Hall of Fame this year, Ed Farhat, the original Sheik. I know Brody's in. Without the Sheik and Brody, do you even have ECW, our ECW that we get to talk about every single week here on the program?
I mean, arguably. I mean, yeah, you can still make a case for others, Onita, etc. But for the most part, the Sheik is he's the Shelton Benjamin, the gold standard when it comes to that style of wrestling. But ECW made it a better style of wrestling.
Right.
Nobody's ever going to accuse the Sheik of having a 5-star match. Maybe a 5-star Riot or a 5-star Brawl or something, but never gonna be accused of having a fucking good match. And if you can get put on the Hall of Fame just on that fucking merit alone, you've never had a good match. That's pretty much saying something, in my opinion. Yeah, he's stuck in the ring.
He's
going to the Hall of Fame.
The ECW connection I'll give Nate is talking about, like, when you had an ECW. Yeah, you probably still would have, but I'll put Sheik, like, appearing on ECW gave it, like, legitimacy. You know what I mean?
I wish it could have been more, man. I really do. I was there and everything, but like literally, I just was hoping that he would be there a little more because I was terrified to talk to him. I didn't talk to him other than shake his hand, and literally, I don't even think he shook my hand. I think he just looked at me like up and down, and I just kind of like walked away. I made sure I was in my gear first, so he didn't think I was just some mark.
Yeah.
So I wanted to let him know that I was a worker on the show, and I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he looked at me like up and down. I was like, "Okay, nice to have you here, sir.
Yeah.
You're gonna have me over for dinner." But I mean, look at his fucking accomplishments, and what he did, and just at Cobo Hall. That's Jerry Lawler Mid-South Coliseum fucking numbers.
That's what I was going to say. You talk about, once again, it's like Stu. It's like of significance to the business. I mean, an entire region of the country between him and Dick the Bruiser, an entire region of the country, pretty much, as far as the territory system goes. And like you said, in Detroit, shit. There's never been a wrestler draw in Detroit like him. And me and Aaron are we are actually from Toledo. And that kind of even when we were kids in the 80s and 90s, things had really died off, but the residual effects of the Sheik were still there, And
when you tell an old dude that you liked wrestling, when you tell like a 45, 50-year-old guy that you liked wrestling, they bring up Bobo
Brazil.
Yeah, they bring up Bobo, Sheik. Yeah, Bobo, Sheik, Dick the Bruiser, and the Great Wojo. That's who they'd bring up.
The Great Wojo.
Yeah, he was from Toledo, man.
Great Wojo he was a local celebrity in our town.
He was a coach at Whitmer. Like he coached basketball or whatever at Whitmer. Yeah,
they don't fucking sell tickets at Whitmer.
Saying those are the guys people would bring up, and if they didn't remember
a free event, good for him.
If they didn't remember Bobo's name, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember Cocoa Butt." That's what they called him, Cocoa Butt.
Big gigantic black dude,
Cocoa Butt.
Yeah, dude, that's tremendous. That your guys and the way you guys live, that your guys' legends consist of like the Sheik, which you're like, yeah, that's cool. Bobo Brazil, Wilbur Snyder.
Dick the Bruiser.
And
every old guy every old guy around here when I was like a teenager in my 20s or whatever, if I ever told an old guy that I liked wrestling or we were talking about wrestling, it was like every old guy around here at some point in his life met Dick the Bruiser. I met Dick the Bruiser. Right. Met Dick the Bruiser at a
truck stop.
Met him at a truck stop in Elyria or whatever.
You met a guy that looked like Dick the Bruiser. Because all of you look like Dick the Bruiser.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, I hope you're going there with that one, because
that's like that Mitch Hedberg joke where he talks about Mitch Hedberg talks about how he did that movie with Peter Frampton, and in the scene they were doing, they had to smoke weed, but it wasn't real weed because it was whatever. So he's smoking this fake weed with Peter Frampton, and he's like, "I'll tell you what, smoking fake weed with Peter Frampton is almost as cool as smoking real weed with a guy who looks like Peter Frampton."
Damn.
But anyway, the Sheik in the Hall of Fame, deservedly so. The next guy that got, and Chad and I did vote for him for the record. The next guy that got in this year, Aaron voted for, and I voted for. Chad did not vote for this gentleman this year, but it doesn't matter. He's in now, so you don't have to worry about voting for him in the future. Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, obviously I didn't vote for him for a reason. Because I don't think
this was his first year. This was his first year on the ballot. So
okay, I'll probably abstain from voting for him any other year. He just doesn't stand out to me. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he never did good things, like his whole entire body of work, but a lot of his body of work included after he was done in the ring.
Yeah.
And I don't know a
whole lot about his in-ring career. He was just an attraction.
Part of it is like how Nate said, with it's like the significance to a territory or a company. I mean, he had a lot of significance and whatever to the formation of Vince's WWF. So that's,
but it wasn't as a talent.
I know, but I'm just saying. I mean,
oh yeah, I'm not going to discredit that at all. I'm just saying as a talent. You know, he didn't rock Stone Cold it. You know what I mean? Like, no, he didn't like change the landscape of the business with his fucking awesome work of Muhammad Ali.
I know, but I'm saying like it's more behind the scenes thing for kind of why I voted for him. Just his significance to the history and being able to just wheel and deal, and he knew everybody and get anybody out of anything.
If you're gonna consider that criteria, I get it totally.
I don't think Vince would have got as far in the WWF as he did without having Gorilla Monsoon with.
Yeah, I mean, same with all the guys, Skull and Strongbow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Phil Zacco.
Yeah, Dick Worley. Like, yeah, I mean, I used to have
and Joe McHugh.
Who?
I said and Joe McHugh.
Yeah, Gilberto Roman.
Every time somebody says Dick Worley, I'm like, isn't that what Flair did on that plane? Isn't that what guys started? He pulled a Dick Worley and everything went.
I'm standing in the shower thinking of Dick Worley.
So the next guy to get in this year, we got two more here. Aaron did vote for him, I believe. Yes, and I think Chad did as well. And it is, and we can talk about this guy for definitely a little bit. Ted DiBiase.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, pick a territory.
Yes. And it's like, no matter what, no matter where he is, he's the best.
Pick a territory, pick a version.
Pick a gimmick. Yeah, he's the best. Yeah. He's the best heel. He's the best heel in the territory, no matter what territory.
See, he's a classic example of what I was talking about, that who we were just talking about wasn't. About popping the territory.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Mid-South. He's a fucking heel. Like, what did he do? He pile drove what? With a dog or Michael Hayes? Or he got pile drove, right?
I think it was dog.
He pile drove the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and then he ended up turning babyface. Like, and all his babyface turns, even going through the UWF, they were all like they weren't by like something stupid like a manager fucking them. It was by like the crowd just started getting behind him, and then he just started to change his style. It wasn't like a fucking babyface turn, so to speak.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's what I was gonna say. He was always, no matter whether babyface or heel, he was always the same guy.
He was so good.
Yeah.
Like, even if you didn't like him, you had to fucking respect him because, he was so good. Yeah, I mean, he could do it all. Like his stuff in Georgia. You figure you're doing, when you're on top in Georgia for whatever, 2-3 years as he was, he's doing fucking 8 or 9 promos in 2 hours. Like, how many times are you coming out on the show and you're going to have stuff to say and then you got to do a brawl, But he pulled it off, man. And his matches are just psychologically as fundamental as anybody's. Nobody's ever saw a bad Ted DiBiase match, not even against that guy the WWE hired and only had 2 matches, and they fired him. Because I think DiBiase worked him. And then when they realized that DiBiase couldn't get a match out of him, that, yeah, he wasn't worth an experiment. What was his name? Johnny Powers?
Oh, shit.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I don't remember what his name was, though. I know it's not
He
that.
didn't
It's
know how
not
to hit
that.
the ropes.
It's not that McGee guy, because he was the one that had the match with Brett.
Yeah, that's him. That's it. Is it Tom McGee?
Tom McGee. Yeah, he had the match with Brett too. He worked with Brett.
Well, he had
it
the
was a
great match.
disaster.
Well, he had a great match with Brett. Brett got a great match out of him, and then everybody else after that, they couldn't get shit out of him. That was
that's pretty fucked up when they put you with Bret Hart, Ted DiBiase, and who knows what other top caliber of worker they put him against, and they couldn't do shit with him.
Well, and he's one of the. I said it before. He's probably, for an actual wrestling match, not like a drama wrestling match, because there are people that had good dramatic, grandiose performances with the Ultimate Warrior. But as far as a nuts and bolts pro wrestling match, Saturday night's main event after Survivor Series, I think it's 1990. It's either 89 or 90. Anyway, after one of the Survivor Series, there's a Saturday night's main event, and there's a one-on-one match between the Ultimate Warrior and Ted DiBiase, and it's the best Ultimate Warrior match I've ever seen. DiBiase did it, man. It was like you're working a fucking miracle, brother.
And it's also the only. Okay, we said like he got a good match out of the Ultimate Warrior. He's the only guy that made Virgil interesting. As a wrestler, I mean, as a person, Virgil's super interesting and entertaining. But as a wrestler, he's the only guy that got anything out of him. And
dude, when I started trading tapes, like I saw the angle on TV, I watched it, the Mr. R angle. But when I first started trading tapes, that's one of the angles I had to have on tape. I had to get that Mr. R angle because, like, his fucking face when Tommy Rich like walks out. And stands there and waves at him. And then his face is like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't realize I was wrestling Brad Armstrong that whole entire time. That's amazing to me that he wrestles Brad Armstrong and he thinks that it's Tommy Rich because he's wearing a fucking New Japan workout suit and a mask. Like, how many times did he work Tommy Rich? And when did Tommy Rich ever do like some of the stuff that Brad Armstrong did? Like an
when was he ever built like Brad Armstrong?
Well, I mean, he had the full body outfit on.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, yeah. Oh, I know. You can totally still see that. You can still totally see that with Tommy Rich. But just the fact that Tommy Rich comes out and DiBiase's look on his face where he's just like, what? That wasn't who I was just beating up for 10 minutes?
If there ain't no Potbelly, it ain't no Tommy Rich.
No, dude. That's one of my all-time favorite angles, just from the look on DiBiase's face. And the little kid playing the basketball thing, come on. That's like that. People talk about it today as one of the most disgusting, like, angle. Not disgusting as in, like, bad taste. Just like when you talk about, like, heel stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the biggest heel angles when he kicks the basketball from the little black boy.
Or when he kicks everybody out of the swimming pool.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite vignette. Like not out in the crowd, but that's my favorite one with the pool. When he wants all the kids out of the pool, and the guy's like, "I'm not gonna do that," and then like he whips out all the money, and the guy's chlorine levels too high. Everybody's gotta go.
And everybody's got their little fucking dinghies, and they're all like filing out like Jaws is in the fucking pool. You know, the guy's got the little fucking thing wrapped around his waist, and they're all like making their exit. Yeah, that's classic. Everybody out, chlorine. Yeah, DiBiase's just. I mean, everything he did was gold, and I mean, I'm a little suspect. It wouldn't even hold me back as far as putting him in the Hall of Fame, but his Lloyd's of London shit. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know his back situation. I honestly don't, but I know back.
A lot
he
of
came
guys
from the
did
era
that,
where
though.
everybody was getting Lloyd's of London. You know, whether he could work, can't work. That's not the. You know, he still did enough after he couldn't even work. But yeah, DiBiase for sure, Hall of Fame.
And one more thing I'll say about him is, and I know, people can say what they want. That everybody has their own opinion. But when he did the Money Incorporated thing, that was the only time I've ever been a fan of Mike Rotunda. So he also did that too.
I don't know. Captain Mike Rotundo is pretty interesting.
Not a Rotunda guy here.
Varsity Club was over. Yeah, me neither, really. But yeah, I guess you're right. Money Inc. He got a Hogan run, right? They got a Hogan tag run, Beefcake or some shit.
Yeah, well, and like I told Aaron the last time we were talking about it, that time too, the WWF tag team division was, oof, it wasn't what it once was. And those two guys, DiBiase and IRS, kind of kept that shit afloat for a couple of years.
Yeah, I guess you got a good point there. I never really thought about it, how bad their tag team division was. What, LOD, Nasty Boys, Steiners?
Natural disasters.
All right, LOD, Natural Boy Steiners.
And the Bushwhackers.
All right, LOD, Natural Nasty Boy Steiners.
Steiner's only pretty much for just 9 months or a year. They weren't even there that long.
Doesn't matter. They fucking still did more than the Natural Disasters did in 2 years? Beefcake and Honky? Or Valentine and Honky? Rhythm and Blues.
Rhythm and Blues. Boxcar
Bravo and
Valentine.
Frenchie Martin. The real Quebecers.
The last guy that got in this year, none of us voted for him. None of the three of us voted for him. And I don't think he should have gotten in, but it is what it is. I just make
how'd he get in if none of us voted for him?
Well, none of the three of us voted for him, but enough of the other people did where he got in this year.
Okay, all right.
Sting.
Those clown shoes don't matter.
Sting. And here's my big thing, because Chad and I have talked about it, and we both voted for Ricky Dozon again this year, because Ricky Dozon, 4 years on the ballot. Next year, if he doesn't get in, he has to go back to the nominating process. Why isn't he in this Hall of Fame yet?
But Sting's in.
It's a crime.
Who are these people you allow to fucking vote? Are they also still getting 10 CDs for a penny? Who are these jabronis?
But like I said before, and I'll just say it one more time. It's not that I don't necessarily dislike Sting. My big thing about Sting is through his whole career, yeah, he had main events, but he was always the other guy.
Yeah.
In any promotion he was ever in, he was never the draw. The only time he was ever a draw was the year and a half he didn't wrestle. Like he spent a year and a half in the bleachers or up in the rafters or whatever. That's the only time he was ever a draw. He didn't even wrestle. And he did.
When he was champion, WCW was having a bad time and he didn't draw
in the tank. Yeah.
And Nate, honestly, I think a lot of times when people look at like a list of names that are in front of them and they're wrestling fans, they just vote with the nostalgia.
They vote with their heart and not with their head.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you look. It's kind of like when you hear.
No doubt Sting's a Hall of Famer. Maybe just not now.
Not before Ricky Dozon.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, whatever. Get him out of the way. Put it that way.
Let me run him down he's not a Hall of Famer before Ricky Dozon. He's not a Hall of Famer before Bob Backlund. He's not a Hall of Famer before the Midnight Express, Rick Rude, Sergeant Slaughter, John Cena. I mean,
Crusher
even Chris
Blackwell.
Jericho. Chris Jericho
Sheik-
should be in before Sting.
Sheik Adnan Al Casey. It sold out Houston. Yeah, no shit, man.
Jumping Jeff Farmer.
Yep.
Oh, of course. That's a different show. That's gonna be my 5-star Hall of Fame.
Let me check here and see. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about Sting. I don't know if you
Sting,
guys do.
fuck him.
But actually, Chad, from your votes this year, let's see. You did pretty good. Bockwinkel, Stu, DiBiase, Sheik, Brody all got in. So the people you voted for this year that didn't get in,
Midnight
Express,
Buddy Rose.
Buddy Rose, and
He's
Ricky
going
Dozon.
in, dude. Mark my words.
But yeah,
Buddy
and
Rose
when
is- actually,
he
Buddy
goes
Rose-
in, when he goes in, it's gonna blow him away. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but Buddy Rose isn't even something to laugh at because, like you said, like the criteria of it is Buddy Rose the biggest star in the world? No,
But he was up significant
impact on
to
a
Portland.
territory. Yeah,
Yeah, see, Buddy Rose is going to get in.
But yeah, like I said, Midnight Express. I didn't vote for Midnights this year, but they might be on my, because the people that I voted for that did get in, I voted for Sheik, Monsoon, Stu, and JYD. The people that I did vote for this year that didn't get in, I voted for Inoki. I voted for obviously Ricky Dozon because I just bitched about it. And I actually voted for John Cena this year because, I mean, let's be honest. He, no matter what, modern era, old era, whatever, the guy's had a hell of a fucking run and done a lot of fucking business. And
He's not going to get a go at me for a while.
For a generation of fans, like for my son, who's 21, John Cena's the biggest wrestling star in the world, because that was his. We usually tend to gravitate to our childhood and our teens and our, that's what so, I mean, I can see it from his perspective. To him, John Cena's fucking Hulk Hogan. And then I also voted for Rey Mysterio Jr. this year.
All right.
So,
that's not bad. He's got 25 years in, 30, like more than almost by 30 years total in.
And can we honestly say he's the best, not Mexico, we're not talking about Mexico, but as far as luchadors in the United States to wrestle, he's probably the biggest lucha star ever in the United States, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, there's nobody even close unless you're going to, put him up against Jose Lothario in some little town in Texas.
Or Mascaras.
Yeah, no, Mysterio's even past him because Mascaras fans aren't even alive anymore.
don't undersell El Dandy.
Oh, I'm a big El Dandy fan. Don't get me started on El Dandy. And Super Porky.
Yeah,
I love me
Porky.
some Brazo de Plata, dude.
God rest Super Porky.
Watching him hit the ropes is the best. but I love El Dandy too. His haircut. I'm growing my hair out like that too.
One of my favorite things.
I was just watching the Slamboree and Jericho said he introduces El Dandy and he's like, coming to the ring, the Mexican Lou Ferrigno, El Dandy.
I actually and I know I've said it on, I know we don't talk about him a lot on this podcast because it's an ECW podcast, but on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, I talk all the time about how much I love smug, shitty heel Bret Hart. That's what Bret, whenever Bret's a heel, he's one of my favorite heels ever. And I love the deal where Goldberg's trying to get Bret Hart in the ring. And Gene Okerlund's interviewing Bret Hart. It's WCW. It's like the shitty days of WCW, but Bret's a fucking shining star. And Bret's the U.S. champion. And essentially, Gene Okerlund's like, Bret, you're not answering the challenge of Goldberg. And Bret goes, listen, Gene, I know Bill Goldberg wants a shot at me, but he's got to get in line. And Gene's like, he's Bill Goldberg. And he's like, don't underestimate El Dandy, Gene. And it's just like he's got this whole thing about how he needs to give El Dandy his U.S. title shot because he deserves it more than Goldberg. And it's just so fucking funny. Like, randomly.
I can't see Bret Hart doing that.
Oh, yeah. And my second favorite part of the thing is, like, they're not calling him Bill Goldberg anymore. They're just calling him Goldberg. And Gene Okerlund, like, Bret's like, and Bill Goldberg, he says it in his Canadian accent. He's like, Bill Goldberg doesn't deserve a shot. And girl's like, or Gene's like, oh, he wants to just be known as Goldberg now. Oh, is that right? Let me tell you something about Bill Goldberg. like he makes sure the rest of the time he says Bill Goldberg as many times as he can. It's one of the greatest fucking promos ever.
Well, who's gonna fuck with Bret Hart?
And it was on a fucking worldwide that nobody ever saw.
It was on just fucking WCW. Aaron, do you want me to go through who you voted for that did get in and didn't get in?
Huh?
Do you want me to go through your votes here?
Yeah, we can do that quick if you want.
Aaron voted for the people that Aaron voted for that got in were Bockwinkel, Stu, DiBiase, and Monsoon. The people that Aaron voted for that didn't get in this year: Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bob Backlund, and Kane.
Kane's interesting.
Yeah, those were just. I think Kane has a career that, I don't want to say it's like almost everything was against the guy, but he still persevered. And a guy that could have walked away from it of just being like just giving shit gimmick after shit gimmick after shit gimmick and just being like nothing's ever gonna work. And dude stuck it out and made it. And I think I don't think he gets enough credit, even though he gets credit from the locker room. You know, I don't think he gets enough credit in general as being as big of a fucking star as he is.
Dude, I've been watching a lot of because I have probably more Raws on DVD than I have any other company. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Any other promote anything. So I've been watching a lot of Raws, and I'm like, dude, Kane really doesn't do anything. Like it's amazing to me. I've been watching him. Like it just stuck out at me the other day. I was watching something. I'm like, dude, he doesn't do much. Like as far as like even in his matches, he basically does like the taker spots, and and a lot of the times he's still on his feet. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, he's been what 30 years.
Yeah, and it's what do I say? He's one of those guys that when you really watch him, he didn't do a lot, but what he did made enough of an impact where it didn't matter that he didn't do a lot.
You didn't know it at the time. Right.
Yeah, you didn't notice because he's a pro. Yeah, I'd say he's one of the better, one of the best big guys ever.
And he still can be.
And yeah, and like Aaron said, WWE through all his incarnations fed him a lot of shit to eat. And he stuck around and stuck with it long enough to land a golden gimmick, a golden goose. You're going to be
Undertaker's brother.
Yeah, I mean, Undertaker's brother.
Better gimmick to be Undertaker's father.
Exactly. Or mother. Yeah, it's like, what's the best gimmick that you could be given in the WWF? Undertaker's brother. I think things are going to work out.
His neighbor, or his fucking, or his dentist.
Like you're just not gonna. It's like you're not just gonna have a feud with the guy. You're gonna be linked to him the rest of the time that you're here.
Right.
Right. Like, aren't you the guy to change my oil? That's right. Fuck. And he's the guy at Walmart. Can I see your receipt? What the fuck? Yeah, he's everywhere and he's done everything. Like I remember being in Memphis. I was there like probably right after Glenn was down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like people that I was down there with talking about how great of a guy he was and how they just kept giving him, like WWE just kept sending down these gimmicks for him when he was in Memphis. Even down in Memphis.
When he was in Memphis, did he work as Unabomb or did he work as...
That was Smoky Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
I know Smoky Mountain, but when he was in Memphis, did he work as Unabomb or did he work?
He
he was
worked
the
in Memphis
Christmas
as
preacher.
Unabomb when Smoky Mountain feuded with USWA. But he wrestled as fucking the Christmas creature.
Yeah, Christmas
which
creature.
had the tinsel on it and the belt and the bells and stuff. And he wrestled in like as like the Punisher. You know, any of them generic names. The Gladiator.
I was gonna say any gimmick they ever also gave Sid.
I think he went by Bruiser Marcino or some shit.
Bruiser
like that,
Mastino. He had a match in WCW as Bruiser Mastino.
And Sting.
Wait a minute, Bruiser Mastino, wasn't he that guy that was like PNX's brother?
No, that was Mantar. Fuck.
It was Bruiser Mantar.
Mantard.
It was his thing was Bull something, but
is that what you called him?
His career was Bull something too.
It wasn't Bull something. It was Mantar.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up. And I want to thank Aaron and Chad for joining me on this Hall of Fame edition of Reliving the Extreme. Now that we've talked about the Hall of Fame, next year we'll get back into reviewing ECW.
Next year? Taking a year break?
Taking a year off.
He's got you in the hospital for a minute, Chad.
Helen Hart is just tired of us talking about ECW. But yeah, we're going to not take a break. When we come back next week, we'll be back into talking about ECW. But Aaron, Chad, thank you for joining me.
All I want to say is I love you, Jess. Please listen to this.
Aaron?
Thanks for listening, guys.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. I'll be the same.
You got it, guys.